know that you have seen the news and I'm ready to address it. Our show has not been renewed for another season. And I want to say to y'all, everybody, y'all try not to faint or fall out because healthcare is expensive and none of us have it anymore. So y'all.
Now, based on I don't know who needs to hear this right now, but something just exploded behind the scenes of daytime television, and the shockwaves are still ripping through Hollywood as we speak. Because just when the world thought the Sherri Shepherd cancellation drama had already reached its boiling point, just when fans were still trying to process the emotional on-air confession that left viewers stunned, just when insiders swore the story was finally over, Wendy Williams spoke. And what she allegedly revealed has the entire industry shaking. We're not talking about a subtle comeback tease. We're talking about a bombshell so explosive that producers, executives, and even former co-hosts are scrambling to contain the fallout. Because according to multiple behind-the-scenes leaks, the cancellation of Sherri Shepherd's talk show might not have been a simple business decision at all. It might have been a calculated takedown, a quiet power move. And the person standing at the center of the storm is the very woman whose throne Sherri once inherited, Wendy Williams. For months, rumors had been swirling in the darkest corners of entertainment media that something strange was happening behind closed studio doors. Staff whispering, producers disappearing from meetings, executives suddenly refusing to comment. And then, the cancellation dropped like a nuclear bomb. Official statements tried to calm the situation, claiming it was just a shift in the daytime television landscape. But insiders say that explanation is about as believable as a Hollywood friendship lasting forever. Because according to a former production staffer, who allegedly leaked private group chat screenshots, the decision to cancel Sherri's show had already been secretly finalized weeks earlier. Weeks? And the reason? That's where things start to get messy. Because buried inside those alleged messages was one chilling sentence from an unnamed executive that has now gone viral across social media. Once Wendy is cleared, the seat becomes hers again. Read that again. Once Wendy is cleared, the seat becomes hers again. Fans immediately erupted. TikTok detectives started digging through old interviews. Twitter threads exploded overnight. And suddenly people began connecting dots that had been sitting in plain sight for years. Because the truth is, the history between Wendy Williams and Sherri Shepherd has never been as simple as daytime television tried to pretend. Not even close. And now, people are asking the question that nobody in the industry wants to answer. Was Sherri Shepherd always just a placeholder? Because only hours after news of the cancellation broke, a mysterious audio clip started circulating online. No one knows exactly who leaked it, but the voice in the recording sounds eerily like Wendy herself. And the message? Let's just say it didn't sound like someone surprised by Sherri's downfall. In fact, it sounded like someone who saw it coming. Someone who had been waiting. And if what insiders are claiming about that recording is even half true, then the emotional meltdown Sherri Shepherd had on television earlier this week suddenly takes on a completely different meaning. Because according to people who were allegedly inside the studio that day, the tears weren't just about a cancelled show. They were about betrayal. Deep betrayal. The kind that destroys friendships, careers, and reputations overnight. And now the internet is asking the question that's about to tear this entire situation wide open. Did Wendy Williams just drop the first clue that she's about to reclaim the throne she believes was stolen from her? Or worse, did she just expose the real reason Sherri Shepherd was removed from daytime television in the first place? Because what comes next in this story is where things start getting truly unbelievable. The moment that leaked audio began circulating online, the internet did what the internet does best, detonate. Within minutes, hashtags started trending like wildfire. Fan pages were clipping the recording into 10-second loops, TikTok creators were slowing the audio down frame by frame, and gossip blogs were blasting headlines, so loud you could practically hear the panic inside the executive suites that thought this entire situation had been quietly handled. Because if that voice really belonged to Wendy Williams, then the calm, carefully crafted public story about Sherri Shepherd's cancellation was about to collapse like a house of cards in a hurricane. The recording was short. Barely 20 seconds. But every word sounded like a loaded weapon. The voice, sharp, unmistakable, dripping with the kind of knowing confidence that Wendy built an empire on, allegedly said something that immediately sent shockwaves through daytime television. Some seats are borrowed, and eventually they get returned. Just that sentence alone had fans screaming. But it didn't stop there. Because a few seconds later, the voice continued with something that sounded even more chilling. People forget who built the table. Now pause for a second. Because when those two lines hit social media, something fascinating happened. Former staffers from both shows started speaking up. Quietly at first. Then louder. And what they began revealing painted a picture that was far messier than anyone watching from home ever realized. One former production assistant, who worked during the chaotic transition period when Wendy's show ended and Sherri's show was born, allegedly posted a now-deleted thread describing the atmosphere behind the scenes. According to them, the building itself felt like a war zone. Executives were scrambling. Staff members were terrified about losing their jobs. And there were constant rumors that Wendy's team believed the show had been taken from her while she was at her most vulnerable. But the real explosion came when that same former employee claimed something that nobody had publicly confirmed before. They claimed that Wendy had been quietly monitoring everything. Every rating. Every guest. Every move Sherri made on that stage. And allegedly, she wasn't happy. Because while Sherri tried to reinvent the format with a warmer, more uplifting vibe, longtime fans of Wendy's show kept comparing the two programs, like rival fighters stepping into the same ring. And those comparisons were brutal. Clips started circulating, showing audience members whispering that the new show felt too safe. Comment sections filled with people saying they missed Wendy's raw, unpredictable energy. And then came the ratings debates. Some reports said Sherri's show was doing fine. Others claimed executives were disappointed because they expected the numbers to explode. But according to a supposed insider leak that surfaced in an entertainment newsletter last month, the real tension wasn't just about ratings. It was about power. Because allegedly, during contract negotiations for the upcoming season, Sherri made demands. Big ones. Demands that certain executives felt were ambitious. One alleged production memo claimed she requested a pay increase, fewer filming days, and the ability to pursue acting projects while maintaining the talk show schedule. Now on paper, that might sound like standard celebrity negotiations. But according to insiders, that request landed at the exact same moment producers were already discussing something explosive behind closed doors. Wendy's potential return. And that's where things started to spiral. Because the moment whispers of Wendy reclaiming her place began floating through the executive hallways, the atmosphere around Sherri reportedly changed overnight. Meetings became tense. Emails went unanswered. Producers who used to praise the show suddenly started talking about long-term strategy. Then something even stranger happened. A private message thread, allegedly between mid-level producers, was leaked onto a gossip forum. No one has verified its authenticity. But if the messages are real, they reveal a moment that sounds like something straight out of a Hollywood thriller. One producer reportedly wrote, If Wendy's guardianship situation ends next month, everything changes. Another responded. Then the Sherri era was always temporary. Temporary. That single word spread across social media like gasoline hitting an open flame. Fans who had supported Sherri began defending her fiercely, accusing networks of using her as a convenient replacement while Wendy was sidelined. Meanwhile, longtime Wendy loyalists started celebrating what they called the Queen's inevitable return. And then, Sherri herself appeared on television. What happened next made everything even more suspicious. Because during a discussion about industry pressure and the treatment of women in entertainment, Sherri suddenly became emotional. Not just emotional. Shaken. Her voice cracked. Her eyes filled with tears. And she said something that viewers initially brushed off as a generic reflection about fame. But after the cancellation news broke, that moment started looking very different. She said, "There are battles people fight to stay on air that you'll never know about." At the time, the audience clapped sympathetically. But after the leaks, after the rumors, after that audio clip started circulating, people went back and replayed that moment again and again. Because suddenly it sounded less like a reflection and more like a warning. Then came the moment that turned the entire situation into full-blown chaos. Late one night, a fan account posted screenshots of what they claimed were direct messages from someone connected to the production. The sender remained anonymous. But the messages described something explosive that allegedly happened during a closed-door meeting between executives and Sherri just weeks before the cancellation announcement. According to the messages, Sherri was blindsided. She walked into the meeting expecting to discuss the next season. Instead, she was told the show's future was under review. But the most shocking claim came in the final message. The anonymous source wrote, "She asked them directly if Wendy was coming back. And according to the alleged insider, no one in the room answered. Silence. Complete silence. Which, in Hollywood, sometimes speaks louder than words. Because if those claims are true, then Sherri Shepherd may have realized in that moment that something bigger than ratings, contracts, or creative direction was already in motion. Something that had been quietly building behind the scenes for months. And if the rumors swirling around Wendy's upcoming freedom from her guardianship are accurate, then what happened next might explain why certain executives suddenly stopped returning calls. Why producers began holding secret meetings. And why one particular penthouse apartment in New York, 3 floors tall with a private elevator, was allegedly reserved months before the cancellation announcement ever happened. But here's where this story takes a turn that nobody saw coming. Because just as fans were debating whether Wendy was really preparing for a comeback, another leak appeared. This one wasn't audio. This one wasn't text messages. This one was something far more dangerous. A video. A backstage video that allegedly shows a confrontation between someone from Wendy's inner circle and a member of Sherri Shepherd's production team. And the moment that video cuts off is the exact moment someone shouts a sentence that might change everything. The video surfaced at 2:17 in the morning. No warning. No explanation. Just a 30-second clip dumped onto a gossip forum by an anonymous account that had never posted before. Within 10 minutes it had already been copied, reposted, and dissected across every corner of the internet. Because what the video allegedly shows is something no network executive ever wanted the public to see. The camera shakes like someone is recording secretly from behind a hallway corner inside what appears to be the backstage area of the talk show studio. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead. You can hear voices echoing through the corridor. Then suddenly the camera zooms slightly. Two figures are standing face to face. One of them, according to viewers who analyzed the clip frame by frame, looks strikingly similar to a longtime member of Wendy Williams' former production circle. The other appears to be someone from Sherri Shepherd's current staff. The tension between them is immediate. The voices are low at first, but the argument is clearly heated. One voice says something about contracts. Another voice fires back about respect. Then the conversation explodes. The person believed to be connected to Wendy's camp suddenly raises their voice and says a sentence that has now been replayed millions of times online. "You knew this day was coming." The hallway goes silent for a split second. Then the second person responds, their voice trembling with anger. "She deserves to know the truth." And that's when the clip cuts. Just like that. No resolution. No context. No explanation. But that single exchange ignited an absolute inferno online. Because suddenly everyone was asking the same terrifying question. What truth? Within hours, fan communities began pulling together timelines, trying to piece together exactly when the alleged confrontation might have taken place. One theory exploded across social media. The video may have been recorded the same week Sherri reportedly had that mysterious meeting with executives. The one insiders claim left her visibly shaken when she walked out. And if that's true, then the argument caught on camera may have been happening while decisions about her show were already being made behind closed doors. But the chaos didn't stop there. Because just when the internet thought the situation couldn't get any more explosive, another piece of information dropped that sent fans spiraling. A former audience coordinator from the studio allegedly went live on social media. At first, viewers thought it was just another rumor. But then the person started describing something that sounded eerily specific. They claimed that during the final weeks of production, the atmosphere inside the studio had become almost unbearable. Staff members whispering in corners. Security appearing more frequently than usual. And one day in particular that left everyone stunned. According to this alleged insider, Sherri arrived at the studio earlier than normal one morning. She went straight into a private office meeting with producers. The door closed. 40 minutes later, she walked out. And people who saw her said her face looked completely different. Not angry. Not dramatic. Just hollow. Like someone who had just learned something devastating. The former coordinator claimed that after that meeting, production assistants were suddenly told to prepare for multiple possible announcements. That phrase alone has now become a viral mystery. Multiple announcements. Why would a show preparing for a normal upcoming season need to prepare multiple announcements? Fans immediately began speculating. Some believed executives were debating whether to announce the cancellation immediately. Others believed something even bigger was happening behind the scenes. Something connected to Wendy Williams. Because around the same time, reports began surfacing that Wendy had quietly been taking meetings with television executives again. Nothing confirmed. Nothing official. But entertainment reporters started noticing something unusual. People who had once publicly distanced themselves from Wendy during the guardianship controversy were suddenly showing interest again. Agents returning calls. Networks requesting informal conversations. Even former celebrity guests reportedly reaching out privately. And then the most shocking rumor of all began circulating. According to a leak posted on a celebrity industry forum, a preliminary concept had already been pitched for a new daytime format built entirely around Wendy's return. The title wasn't finalized. The studio wasn't confirmed. But the description was unmistakable. A dramatic comeback. A reclaiming of the throne. and a format that would lean directly into the controversy surrounding her absence. If that pitch was real, it meant one thing. Someone believed Wendy Williams could still dominate daytime television. But there was a problem. A very big one. Because every time Wendy returns to television, one particular name enters the conversation like a ghost from the past. Kevin Hunter. Her ex-husband. The man whose divorce settlement reportedly included a clause tied directly to Wendy's employment. If she returned to television, certain financial obligations would allegedly reactivate. And insiders claim that detail created a massive debate within Wendy's inner circle. Some advisors reportedly encouraged her to pursue radio instead. Others believed the power of television was too valuable to ignore. But according to another anonymous message that appeared online last week, Wendy may already have made up her mind. The message, which has not been verified, claimed that during a private dinner with industry figures, Wendy allegedly said something that instantly silenced the entire table. "I'm not coming back quietly." That quote alone was enough to send the rumor mill into hyperdrive. Because if Wendy Williams does return to television, it won't be subtle. It won't be polite. And it definitely won't be peaceful. Which brings us back to Sherri Shepherd. Because as all of these rumors began colliding, leaked videos, mysterious meetings, comeback whispers, something else started happening online. Fans began digging through old interviews, old clips, old moments that suddenly seemed loaded with new meaning. One particular clip began spreading like wildfire. It showed Sherri talking about the pressure of staying relevant in entertainment. At the time, her words sounded reflective. But in light of everything now unfolding, they feel almost prophetic. She said, "You can be smiling on television while everything behind the scenes is falling apart." That sentence alone has now been viewed millions of times. Because suddenly people are wondering whether Sherri knew far more than she ever publicly admitted. Whether the tears viewers saw on screen were actually the aftermath of a brutal power struggle happening just out of sight. And whether the cancellation announcement was simply the final act in a drama that had been building for months. But just when the internet thought it had uncovered every secret in this story, a new leak surfaced. One that might be the most explosive yet. Because according to a source claiming direct knowledge of network discussions, a confidential document has been circulating among executives. A document outlining a potential 2026 television launch. And buried inside that document is a line that allegedly explains everything. One single line. A line that suggests the cancellation of Sherri Shepherd's show may have been planned far earlier than anyone realized. And if that document is real, then the emotional breakdown Sherri had on television might not have been about losing her show. It might have been about discovering she was never meant to keep it. The document wasn't supposed to exist outside executive offices. That's what made the leak so explosive. Because when screenshots of the alleged network planning file began circulating through private industry group chats, the reaction from insiders wasn't denial. It was panic. The file looked like a strategic planning outline, nothing flashy, nothing dramatic, just the kind of corporate roadmap executives create months, or even years in advance. But one section of the document immediately jumped out. A projected programming slot for fall 2026. And next to that slot, 3 words that detonated the internet. Williams Relaunch Initiative. No explanation. No official announcement. Just those 3 words sitting quietly inside a confidential development timeline. But the most shocking part wasn't even the title. It was the date attached to the planning notes. The document appeared to have been created nearly a year before Sherri Shepherd's cancellation was ever publicly discussed. Let that sink in. If that document is authentic, it means executives may have been quietly planning a Wendy Williams comeback long before viewers even suspected Sherri's show was in danger. And once fans realized that timeline, everything changed. Because suddenly Sherri Shepherd's emotional on-air moment, the one where her voice cracked and her eyes filled with tears, no longer looked like a host reacting to industry pressure. It looked like someone standing in the middle of a storm she had just discovered was already heading straight for her. Social media erupted. Twitter threads exploded into thousands of comments. Some viewers accused the network of orchestrating a slow-motion replacement. Others argued that daytime television has always been ruthless, and Sherri simply became another casualty of ratings wars and celebrity power plays. But then something happened that pushed the story into even darker territory. Another audio recording appeared. This one far longer than the first. Nearly 2 minutes. And the voice in the recording, again, alleged to be Wendy Williams, sounded calmer this time. Almost reflective. But what she said inside that clip is what truly ignited chaos. In the recording, the voice reportedly says something that fans interpreted as a direct message to the industry. They thought the story was over. But they never asked me if I was done. That line alone sent Wendy's supporters into celebration mode online. Comment sections filled with people declaring that the Queen was coming home. But buried deeper in the recording was a statement that immediately sparked controversy. Because the voice then allegedly added, "When you build something that powerful, people will try to sit in your seat. But seats remember who they belong to." That sentence hit like lightning. To some listeners, it sounded like confidence. To others, it sounded like a warning. And to Sherri Shepherd's supporters, it sounded like a direct shot. Within hours, fan accounts from both sides were clashing across social media like rival armies. One side posting old clips of Wendy's most iconic television moments. The other posting highlights from Sherri's show defending her talent and accusing the industry of treating her unfairly. Memes spread. Reaction videos flooded TikTok. Even celebrities started subtly weighing in. One comedian tweeted a cryptic message saying, "Daytime TV just became nighttime drama." Another talk show host posted a simple eye emoji that instantly went viral. But the most shocking response may have come from someone no one expected to hear from. A former senior producer who once worked on the original Wendy Williams show. Late one evening, the producer posted a single message on their private account. It stayed online for less than an hour before being deleted. But screenshots had already been captured. And the message read, "People have no idea what almost happened behind the scenes back then." That was it. No explanation. No details. Just that haunting sentence. The mystery around those words only fueled the chaos further. What almost happened? What secret moment inside the original show's history could still be influencing events today? Industry insiders began whispering about old conflicts, old alliances, old decisions that may have left wounds no one ever fully addressed. And as those whispers grew louder, something else started happening quietly behind the scenes. Television agents began reaching out to talent managers. Production companies started making calls. Because whether the rumors were true or not, one thing had suddenly become clear. Daytime television had just become the most unpredictable battlefield in entertainment again. And at the center of it all were two women whose careers had now become permanently linked by controversy. Sherri Shepherd and Wendy Williams. One fighting to defend her reputation after a shocking cancellation. The other possibly preparing for the comeback of the decade. But if insiders are to be believed, the real confrontation may not have happened yet. Because according to another anonymous industry message that surfaced late last night, there may be one final moment coming that could change everything. A televised interview. A major network. And a guest whose name has already been circled in red by executives trying to control the narrative. If that interview actually happens, if Wendy Williams sits down and tells her version of what really happened behind the scenes of daytime television, then the secrets currently leaking out piece by piece could explode all at once. And if that happens, the story everyone thought was finished will only just be beginning. Because in Hollywood, the most dangerous moment is never the scandal itself. It's the moment someone decides they are finally ready to talk. And if Wendy Williams really is preparing to reclaim her throne, then the entire industry might soon discover something they never expected. She might have been keeping receipts the entire time. And if those receipts ever go public, daytime television may never look the same again. But before this story goes any further, there's something you need to do right now. Because stories like this don't stay online forever. Clips disappear. Posts get deleted. Leaks vanish the moment powerful people start making phone calls. And if the rumors about upcoming interviews and new evidence are even half true, the next wave of revelations could drop at any moment. So if you've been following this drama and you want to stay ahead of the chaos before the next bombshell explodes, make sure you're locked in with this channel right now. Hit the like button so more people see what's really unfolding behind the scenes. Subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next leak, the next reaction, or the next shocking twist in this story. And most importantly, drop your thoughts in the comments, because the internet is split right down the middle on this one. Was Sherri Shepherd blindsided by a power play she never saw coming? Or is Wendy Williams truly preparing for the most dramatic comeback daytime television has ever witnessed? Because one thing is absolutely certain. This story isn't over. Not even close. Before you click away, stop for a second, because what you've just heard might only be the beginning of a much bigger storm. If even half of these leaks turn out to be real, daytime television is about to experience a meltdown unlike anything we've seen before. The whispers are getting louder. More insiders are starting to talk. And if the rumors about upcoming interviews and new evidence are true, the next wave of revelations could drop without warning. That's exactly how these celebrity industry shakeups unfold. One leak becomes two. Two become 10. Suddenly deleted posts reappear, old clips resurface, and people who stayed silent for years start telling their side of the story. By the time the truth finally comes out, the entire narrative has already flipped upside down. And trust me, this situation between Wendy Williams and Sherri Shepherd is far from settled. The reactions from celebrities, the cryptic messages from insiders, the suspicious timing of everything, it all suggests that something much bigger may still be waiting to explode. So if you want to stay ahead of the chaos, now is the time to lock in. Hit the like button right now so this story reaches more people who are trying to figure out what's really going on behind the scenes. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next bombshell update, the next leaked clip, or the next shocking twist that could completely change everything we thought we knew about this situation. And most importantly, go down to the comments and tell me what you think. Was Sherri Shepherd blindsided by a behind-the-scenes power move? Or is Wendy Williams really preparing for the most dramatic comeback in daytime television history? Because the truth is, this story is still unfolding. And the next revelation could drop at any moment. Stay tuned.